Welcome to Story Time, where every story is a soft whisper designed to guide you gently into the world of dreams. Tonight, let us journey into a tale as simple and soothing as the rhythm of everyday life. Settle in, close your eyes, and listen to Plates and Bowls, a story of quiet harmony and understated beauty. Let the peaceful cadence of this tale carry you toward restful sleep. In a small, sunlit village surrounded by rolling hills, there stood a modest pottery workshop at the end of a cobblestone lane. The workshop belonged to Emery, an elderly artisan with hands weathered from years of shaping clay. His life was a simple one, measured by the quiet turning of his potter's wheel and the soft hum of his kiln. Every morning, as the sun crept over the horizon, Emery would rise, greet the day with a contented sigh, and step into his little studio. The walls of the workshop were lined with shelves, each one holding plates and bowls of every shape and size. Some were plain and utilitarian, while others were adorned with intricate designs of swirling leaves and blooming flowers. But what made Emery's creations special was not their beauty, it was their purpose. Each plate and bowl seemed to hold a quiet story within its curves, as though it had been made not just to serve but to soothe. One misty morning, a young woman named Lila arrived at the workshop. She was a traveler, passing through the village on her way to nowhere in particular. Drawn by the soft glow of the workshop windows, she stepped inside. "Good morning," she said, her voice as light as the breeze. "Your work is beautiful. Do you mind if I watch for a while?" Emery smiled, his face creasing like the pages of an old book. "Not at all," he replied. "Every piece has its own rhythm. Perhaps you'll find it as calming as I do." As Lila settled into a corner of the workshop, Emery began to work. The potter's wheel spun silently under his hands, the clay transforming with each gentle press of his fingers. It was mesmerizing, watching something so raw and unformed become a vessel of purpose. "I travel often," Lila said softly after a time, "but I always feel restless. Like I'm carrying too much, even when my bags are empty." Emery chuckled. "Ah, the weight of things unseen. You remind me of a story my grandmother used to tell." Lila tilted her head, intrigued. "What story?" Emery paused, his hands stilling over the clay. "She said plates and bowls are like people. A plate carries what is given to it, while a bowl holds what it chooses. It's a balance, one of taking and giving, of knowing when to hold on and when to let go." Lila's eyes softened as she watched Emery shape a bowl. Its edges were uneven but graceful, its form imperfect yet full of character. "Sometimes," Emery continued, "we feel like plates, burdened with too much. But there's comfort in becoming a bowl, in learning to contain only what nourishes us." The words lingered in the air, as quiet and profound as the turning of the wheel. Days passed, and Lila returned to the workshop each morning. She watched as Emery created plate after bowl, each one a meditation in clay. She began to notice the rhythm of the process, the way the clay resisted at first, only to yield with patience and care. One afternoon, Emery handed her a lump of clay. "Would you like to try?" Lila hesitated but nodded. Her hands trembled as she placed the clay on the wheel, but under Emery's guidance, she began to shape it. The clay responded to her touch, its resistance softening into fluid motion. As the bowl took form under her hands, Lila felt something shift within her. The act of creating was grounding, as though the weight she carried had been transferred into the clay. "It's imperfect," she said, examining her work. Emery smiled. "Perfection isn't the goal. Harmony is. This bowl is yours, a reflection of where you are in this moment." Lila stared at the bowl, its surface uneven yet full of quiet grace. For the first time in a long while, she felt at ease. The days turned to weeks, and Lila's restless heart grew quieter. She spent her mornings at the workshop, shaping clay and listening to Emery's stories. Each plate and bowl she made became a piece of her journey, a reminder to take what she needed and leave the rest behind. When it was time for her to move on, Emery handed her a small bowl he had made. Its rim was etched with a simple design of swirling leaves. "To remind you of balance," he said. Lila smiled, her eyes bright with gratitude. "Thank you, Emery, for everything." She left the village with a lighter step, the bowl tucked safely in her bag. As she traveled, she began to see the world differently. The weight she had carried for so long no longer felt as heavy, and the rhythm of life seemed to flow more gently around her. And somewhere in a quiet village, Emery continued to spin his potter's wheel, shaping plates and bowls that carried not just food, but stories and solace. And so, dear listener, plates and bowls reminds us to find balance in the quiet rhythm of life. As you drift into slumber, let this story linger like a soft hum, soothing your restless thoughts and guiding you into a night of peaceful rest. Thank you for joining me on Storytime. Sweet dreams and good night.
Thanks for your time. Please subscribe. Don't forget to press the bell icon for more.